President, I come to the floor today to talk about job creation and what this Congress needs to do in order to make sure that our businesses have the best chance of succeeding in what is a very difficult business climate. I have the privilege of representing the great state of Florida, 18.5 million people. And the economic difficulties that we are having now are as difficult as anybody can remember. We are number one in being behind on our mortgage payments, number one on mortgage foreclosures for the first half of the year. Unemployment is at record highs, near 12%. No one can remember a recession as difficult as the one that we're in. So I think it is our job as members of Congress to do what we can where we can be helpful to try to get people back to work. In Florida, our small businesses are struggling. When I drive down the state roads of Florida, down Federal Highway in southeast Florida, or I'm in Tallahassee on Monroe, or I'm over in Pensacola or in Jacksonville, or wherever I am in the state. And I spent a lot of time in the state during our work period in August, visiting with business owners. I see more and more doors that are shut, small businesses that have been closed. I talked to a woman today who owns a small strip shopping center, and she said in the past 3 years they've gone from being 95% occupied to 55% occupied. Businesses are struggling. That's why, Mr. President, I was proud to work with Senator Landrieu and others to fashion a small business bill, a bill that's going to help, I believe, our small businesses get back to work. The small business bill does three things, principally, that I think are going to help small businesses. First, it's going to cut taxes on small businesses by $12 billion, a tax cut for small businesses. Among those tax cuts is 100% exclusion of capital gains tax for those who invest in a small business, a provision to allow firms to immediately write off 50% of the cost of new equipment, and a doubling of the tax deduction for expenses for startup businesses to $100,000. These will allow businesses to pay less taxes, to buy new equipment, hopefully hire new people, and get Floridians and Americans back to work. The bill also has a lending facility, a $30 billion lending facility that's going to bring money to small community banks. Not Goldman Sachs, not Citibank, not Wall Street, but the banker down the street. The banker who knows the dry cleaner, the local paint shop, those small businesses that employ our friends and neighbors, to get loans to them. And if these banks don't loan the money, they'll have to pay a higher interest rate back. They can't just keep the money on their books to make their balance sheets look better. If they want to participate in this program, and it's voluntary, by the way, but if they want to participate and get these dollars to lend out to small businesses, they have to lend them out. All over Florida, businesses tell me that they can't get a loan, that their credit line has been frozen, that if they are some of the few businesses that have a chance to expand, they can't do so because they can't get the needed capital. I visited one of those businesses this past week in Orlando, Florida, a business by the name of Uni Queso. They are a family-owned business, two brothers, and they make dairy products, principally focused on the growing Hispanic community in Florida. And they have had great success because this is a market that wants more of these wonderful products. They're moving their business from Cocoa to Orlando, Florida. They're building a new plant. I had a chance to tour it. They're going to be open in about a month. And they're growing their business. They're doubling the size of their employees. And they're going to produce 10 times more products than they did at their previous location. Just the kind of story we want to hear. But even though they have a good business plan, even though they are making money, 10 banks denied them loans. So what did they do? This family-owned business had to sell off a majority share in their company to get an investor so that they could expand. Now, at least they were able to find a private investor, but they shouldn't have had to give up their family business and control of it just to succeed in the marketplace when no bank would give them a loan. So I believe that this small business bill, while it will not cure every problem, while it's not going to cure all of the troubles we have in this economy, it's a good start. And that's why I'm proud to support it. Frankly, Mr. President, there's not a lot of folks on my side of the aisle who support this bill, but I have to look at this bill for what it means for Florida and the country. It doesn't increase the debt. It doesn't increase the deficit. It doesn't increase taxes. It cuts taxes. And it's going to help small businesses with tax cuts and needed credit that they need to build their business and hopefully put people back to work. That sounds good for Florida. It sounds good for America. But, Mr. President, we need to do more. And where I do differ with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle is that we have taken steps in this Congress in the past year and a half that have been chilling to business and job creation. When I talk to business folks in Florida, they tell me that this new health care law is keeping them from hiring new employees. They don't understand it. It's complicated. They understand that if maybe they hire that next employee, that they will come within the confines of the bill and will be fined if they don't offer the type of health care that the federal government has mandated. The financial regulation bill that we passed in this Congress has caused confusion and anxiety among businesses in Florida, some of whom have told me that they are going to move a portion of their business to the Bahamas so that they won't fall under these regulations. That's jobs that will leave Florida. Small business in Florida is frozen in its tracks. An uncertain regulatory burden from Washington, and now the specter of new taxes. At the end of this year, the tax cuts that were put in place nearly a decade ago are set to expire. And if those tax cuts expire, we are going to raise taxes during a recession. And we're going to raise taxes on small businesses. As many as 750,000 small businesses in America will be impacted by higher taxes at the end of the year if Congress doesn't act. Now look, I walked across the aisle to work with my colleagues from the other side on something that made sense for job creation. And I know now that there are 4 or 5 or 6 of my colleagues on the other side who are saying, let's not raise taxes on anybody during a recession. We need to work together. We need to work together to be problem solvers. It doesn't make any sense to raise taxes during a recession. It doesn't make any sense to raise capital gains taxes, which will stop investment. It doesn't make any sense to raise the taxes on dividends, which will hurt seniors, which will hurt people who invest in companies, which will chill business. It doesn't make any sense to raise taxes on small business people who we know create 2 out of every 3 jobs in this country, more than that in my home state. So I hope we will work together to extend the current policy for everyone and not raise taxes in the middle of a recession. Let me say that there's one more thing that this Congress can do right now to help job creation. We've got 3 pending trade agreements with Panama, with Colombia, and with South Korea. The President of the United States said in his last State of the Union address that he wants to pass these free trade agreements. He wants to promote trade and exports with foreign countries. Why haven't we taken them up? Why haven't we passed them? Colombia and Panama are huge trading partners of my home state of Florida. If you pass these free trade agreements, you will create jobs in Florida almost immediately. So let's get out of the business of pulling huge levers on this economy, imposing new restrictions and burdens and taxes on businesses. Let's promote trade. When we act, let's act judiciously with the surgeon's knife and not the bureaucrat's bludgeon. Business is hurting in this country, small businesses especially, hurting very much in my home state of Florida. I think that there is a way for us to work together to do these things which will help put Americans back to work. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.